We're learning more tonight about the plea agreement for a Missouri State Highway Patrol trooper involved in the 2014 drowning of Brandon Ellingson. Today, we spoke to the prosecutor who filed charges against Trooper Anthony Piercy. He told us Piercy can rescind his guilty plea if the suggested sentence is too harsh. KOMU 8's James Packard is here to explain. James?
So, Brittany, when Brandon Ellingson drowned at the Lake of the Ozarks while in MSHP custody in 2014, there was a lot of backlash, 3 years of it. And while there might have been some indication of closure yesterday when the trooper involved pleaded guilty to his role, the case is far from over. There are still at least two major questions, and they each have to do with two separate legal filings. I'll explain concerns with both, so bear with me. The first has to do with Trooper Piercy's plea. As you mentioned, he can take it back. The other question here is about the family's legal settlement with the state over Brandon Ellingson's death, in a settlement that Ellingson's mother says isn't being followed up on.
What's with the special treatment?
Brandon Ellingson's mother worries Anthony Piercy isn't being prosecuted as harshly as he should be.
I disagree.
The prosecutor on the case.
The defendant finally pled guilty to an offense he committed.
Highway Patrol Trooper Anthony Piercy pleaded guilty Tuesday to misdemeanor negligent operation of a vessel in the 2014 drowning of Brandon Ellingson, a 20-year-old Piercy had just arrested. That's a much lesser charge than the felony he was set to go to trial for next month.
I think it'll be an appropriate punishment.
According to Shea, if the recommended sentencing against Piercy is straight jail time, as in no probation, Piercy can take his plea back. But Shea doesn't think that will happen.
There are 7 factors that probation and parole looks at to determine whether they recommend probation. And in 6 out of 7 of those, Mr. Piercy would receive a recommendation from probation if the Board of Probation and Parole was doing the report.
But to be clear,
if he withdraws his plea, I refile the felony.
And the option to back out of the plea has a purpose.
To induce a plea where we get a guaranteed result.
But still, Sherry Ellingson isn't satisfied.
The man pleaded guilty to something that is almost laughable.
It'll never be enough. I can't bring her son back.
For Sherry Ellingson, the plea isn't the only thing on her mind. After her son's death, she and her family sued the Missouri State Highway Patrol for negligence. She says part of the settlement last November was an agreement that the Missouri State Highway Patrol would give the Ellingson family a list of changes made at the Lake of the Ozarks. But
nothing. Oh, it was supposed to be given to me that next week.
We reached out to the Missouri State Highway Patrol today for comment, but didn't get a hold of anyone to tell us whether they sent the list.
Which to me, again, was the most important part of all this, is that there was something, that there was a reason that, my son had to die, whether it was for something greater, or to protect, to make it safer at the lake. That hasn't happened. And to me, that was where justice would be done.
And we also spoke with Piercy's attorney today by phone. He would not give us any on-the-record comment. This is obviously a very complicated and somewhat confusing story, so we have a timeline on our website that spells all of this out for you chronologically from the day Ellingson drowned to yesterday's plea. If you'd like to click through it for yourself, you can visit our website at KOMU.com.